Well, hello and welcome. You're watching India Fights Back with me, Rajat Kain. In an important development, one more vaccine has shown positive results in its clinical trial. US-based Novavax announced that its candidate vaccine NVX-CoV2373 has demonstrated 90.4% efficacy after its phase 3 trials. Now, as per the reports, the vaccine could be manufactured in India as well, with Serum Instt of India as its manufacturing partner. Serum Institute's Covishield is being administered in India in a vaccine drive across the country. Now, in another development, vaccine trials on children in the age group of 6 to 12 years has begun on Tuesday. Earlier, AIIMS Delhi has completed clinical trial for a single dose of Covaxin, which is manufactured by Bharat Biotech, for children aging 12 to 18 age group. So how these developments could be looked into a larger prism of vaccine availability in India and around the world. To discuss further on this issue, we're joined with Dr. Sanjay Rai. He is a professor in AIIMS and also principal investigator of Covaxin trials. Many thanks, Dr. Rai, for joining us. And Professor Y.K. Gupta, member, National Expert Group on the vaccine. Let me start with you, Professor Gupta. How important do you see developments concerning Novavax and, of course, availability of vaccine, of course, not straight away, but sometime sooner, to have more and more vaccines for a country and for a world which requires vaccine?
I would say that now India has 3 vaccines which are already available.
Right.
One is Covishield, other is Covaxin. The production of both, particularly that of Covaxin, is now going to be doubled, tripled, and many times more. And we expect that by end of September, our production would be 10 crore vials or doses. Now, in addition, the new vaccine, which is NVX-CoV2373,
right,
which is developed in US and for which the clinical trial initial stages in large number of volunteers has been done, but not yet approved in US, because in US, the emergency use authorization, this has not been considered. The Serum Institute has shown interest and is likely to make it in India. Now, if this vaccine also gets approval from DCGI, Drugs Controller General India,
right,
after crossing the regulatory requirement, this will be another vaccine in our kitty. And we will be having a larger pool of vaccine, that is Covishield, Covaxin, Sputnik, and this new vaccine, NVX-CoV2373. In addition to these vaccines, we are also likely to get few other vaccines produced in India in maybe next 6 to 8 months. And Department of Biotechnology is also funding large number of trials, studies for developing new generation of vaccine totally indigenous to India, that may be taking time, maybe 1 year or maybe 18 months. So we should be happy that soon and later, in due course of time, we will be totally independent, self-sufficient, and also meeting the requirement of outside country.
Right, Professor Gupta,
for the vaccine
right,
of COVID. And of course, it will be a good platform to have the vaccine for VOC, means virus of concern, or maybe of interest.
Right, Professor Gupta, I want to just right, Professor, just hold your thought there. That's really important. Many thanks for your opening remarks. Dr. Sanjay Rai, as Professor Gupta just mentioned that, this development concerning Novavax, and of course, like as new vaccine gets round the anvil, there'll be more opportunities for country, not just India, but several other countries who, of course, are slightly short on vaccine and, of course, like who have a larger population to cater to. Now, at the same time, one important component of any population, for that matter, happens to be children. And now you are among the center, or rather central figure among the medical fraternity who are administering vaccination trial on children. What has been the development so far on this front? Sir, Dr. Sanjay Rai.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. And see, we just started clinical trial in children. It's the same vaccine developed by ICMR and Bharat Biotech. It's a completely indigenous vaccine. And already all the clinical trials and preclinical trials done here in India. So for adult, phase 1 trial, phase 2 trial, phase 3 trial, and finally regulatory authority approves this vaccine. So this vaccine has already demonstrated that this vaccine is safe and effective vaccine for the adult. But for children, we don't have any evidence that evidence about the safety profile of any vaccine and also the efficacy, immunogenicity. So all this. So the main objective of this clinical trial is to generate evidence for the safety and also for the efficacy and immunogenicity. So currently, this is the phase 2, phase 3 clinical trial. So we have divided in 3 groups. First group, 12 to 18 year, recruitment is already over. The second group we started today, 6 to 12 year, and then the third group is 2 to 6 years. So children between 2 to 18 year in due course of time, they will be given vaccine, and then we will monitor them for the safety profile and for the immunogenicity also. And so today we started recruiting children between 6 to 12 years. The process is almost same as that was in the adult. So this scientific component are almost same, except one, that adult consent, they can give consent, whereas for children, usually parents are legal guardian, they provide consents. Otherwise, the process is almost same.
Dr. Rai, there is, in terms of running a clinical trial or administering clinical trial on children, there is an age group from 12 to 18 years of age. Now, for the single dose, the clinical trial has been conducted in AIIMS Delhi. Any results or any inferences that you've been able to study from there, sir? And that, of course, would form a cue for our next study on children aging 6 to 12?
See, I can't disclose the result. It's with the regulatory authority.
Okay. Any findings,
but,
if no results,
we have already submitted. Sorry, I could not get you. Say again.
I'm saying, if, I'm not asking for the final result, but how have been the trials? How the trials have progressed in that age group? Has it shown a promising figure?
It's a multi-centric study. It's not only AIIMS. There are few other sites also. So all sites have finished the recruitment. So both screening has been completed. Then after screening, if healthy volunteer, this is screening. The purpose of this screening is to identify the healthy volunteers. So after screening, if the volunteer is healthy, then we provide this vaccine. So that is already over. The safety related data, 1 week monitoring has been done, and we have already submitted. So that is with the regulatory authority. So now we are going to start this with 6 to 12 years. But the data, what is the safety profile data, we can't share in this public domain. It's with the regulatory authority, so it's inappropriate to share this type of data. So right now I can't share, but very soon everybody will know. Yeah,
we understand, sir. Certainly, many thanks for enlightening us on that important aspect of vaccination trials on children. Professor Gupta, we were discussing about availability of vaccine, and you said that by September end we'll be completely self-reliant in terms of having vaccine, or rather that we don't have to rely on any other countries for having a tranche of vaccine. Just going back a month, and we experienced a very extremely catastrophic second wave. Did we ever envisage that there'll possibly be a time when there'll be shortage of vaccines?
There are two, three important background points which one must understand. When there was no vaccine, people were so eager that when is the vaccine likely to come? And people were talking to us if they can get vaccine out of turn. But and when the vaccine came, everybody was hesitant. Why should I take vaccine? Should I take vaccine? Should I take vaccine with some precaution? Should I not take vaccine? या कैसे ही काम चल जाएगा, and so on and so forth. This resulted into what is called as vaccine hesitancy. So much so that at many centers we had to witness that up to 30% vaccine wastage happened, which is unacceptable. Whereas 6% to 32%, 36%, and of course, now with more education, that has come down to less than 1%, which is acceptable. Now, therefore, prediction of vaccine, and because we know that the vaccine storage, vaccine availability was limited, and therefore there was a judicious prioritization of more vulnerable first, maybe the healthcare professional, frontline worker, more vulnerable senior citizens, and then came with the 45 years of age, and then came with the lesser than 45, 18 to 45. And now people have become more conscious, and therefore there is a relative shortage. And now the sudden increase has been funded by Government of India, and the BIREC under Suraksha Mission has funded 7-8 institutions, public sector, private institution, to take the technology transfer from Bharat Biotech, start manufacturing, and within 6 months from now, we hope that the entire pool will produce nearly 10 crore doses per month. And this would be also because of the increase, several-fold increase in the production by Bharat Biotech. So there was a lesser number of vaccine doses available, and this was because the sudden demand increased, and therefore it was strategized. I would say this lack of demand, lack of vaccine does not affect in any way the immunization program, because the immunity lasts much longer. What was earlier is to be given from 12 weeks to 16 weeks. So the gap has given also a safety window or a comfort window.
Right. Professor Gupta, before I move to Dr. Sanjay Rai, just one small question. You mentioned very important aspect of vaccine hesitation. So has this vaccine hesitation been over among the recipients, or are you still seeing considerable amount of people who are a little hesitant about vaccine?
Very important point. The educated group, the sensible people, I'm saying even as sensible, means even in villages they are sensible, even in urban area, educated people are also, they are erratic. So now, but by and large, people have realized, understood that vaccine is the most important solution other than your COVID appropriate behavior.
Right.
Vaccine will not only prevent them, but vaccine will also reduce the intensity of severity if they get an attack or if they get exposed to COVID. And people have realized it. Therefore, this vaccine hesitancy has reduced a lot, but still in villages, even in some part of the cities, there are people who are creating this misinformation, and they need to be taught, they need to be told that bhai jahan pe bhi ho, jo bhi vaccine mil rahi ho, please go and get yourself vaccinated for your good, for society's good.
Right, and important points. So many thanks, sir. Professor Dr. Sanjay Rai, you also believe that there is a bit of a vaccine hesitation, and that is, of course, affecting a long-term goal of having the entire population of inoculated as soon as possible. Thoda zarurat hai abhi to educate people. You think so, sir?
Well-known fact that vaccine reduces the risk of getting disease by working with our body in natural defense to build protection. And as Dr. Gupta mentioned,
yeah.
that definitely whatever evidence we have, we can say vaccine is reducing the severity, vaccine is reducing the deaths. But there are hesitancy. And see, this type of hesitancy, if you are transparent, gradually this will remove. There will be a natural death. I am 100% sure that if you are transparent, if you are sharing all the vaccine related information in a transparent manner, gradually this will decrease the vaccine hesitancy. And that will, see, currently, we do not care this type of vaccine hesitancy because there is a demand and supply mismatch. So if there is a demand and supply mismatch, then see, we do not care this type of, but gradually, when if suppose demand is less and the supply is more, then definitely you have to address. But you have to build in your program all this, that you have to address this gradually. And that is the best ways, be transparent. So currently there is a demand and supply mismatch not only in this country, globally. Although we produce more than 60% of the global vaccine demand, we fulfill this. But still, for COVID-19 related this vaccine, this supply is less because of sudden increase in the demand. And so gradually this will reduce. Definitely this will. Currently there are 15 vaccines approved by various regulatory authority all over the world. And in India, 3 have already approved and 2 are in the use. So, and very soon, as Dr. Y.K. Gupta also mentioned, that we will have 5-6 more vaccines. They are in the different phases of the clinical trials. There are total 8 vaccines in India in the different phases of the clinical trial. So very soon, most probably, we will say goodbye to this demand and supply mismatch.
Right. Dr. Gupta, here is an important question, sir, as we are just talking about addressing any sort of misinformation about the vaccine, of course, like so as to strike down on the vaccine hesitation. So, you think there is, people have considerable information about when to get vaccines, say, especially the ones who have just recovered from COVID, when should they have vaccination, what is their timeline, also healthy adults, and those senior citizens, when should they have to get vaccination? Are all these questions still lingering in people's mind?
Okay, see, now this virus is more than 1 year old, and we have lot of evidences. So it's time to use evidences about the natural infection. There are a lot of publications on the natural infection also, and in very high impact journal. Few published in the New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, few days ago, Nature also published one article. And these are the very good articles. So I can say very good evidences. We have now very good evidences. And based on the evidences, I can say that a natural infection is providing better and longer duration of protection. Even up to 1 year, the nature paper says it could be lifetime. So we have sufficient evidence. We don't have any evidence that vaccination after natural infection will provide any benefit. So that's why I suggested we should be transparent. We must use the existing evidences. If you use existing evidence, then the people will really, the belief of the people in the system will increase, and this will ultimately will decrease your hesitancy. Currently, if we are giving vaccine to naturally infected people, then what will happen? See, it's a, based on the current evidence, I can say it's a wasteful expenditure. There is no need to vaccinate right now. If suppose tomorrow, if you develop some evidence that, okay, giving vaccine after a natural infection, providing some protection or better protection, then we may think. And this will also reduce your demand and supply mismatch. So currently, vaccine is a very precious commodity. Let's use it judiciously. There is no need to vaccinate those who had COVID-19 in the past. Earlier, our guidelines were for 1 year based on the evidences. We changed to 3 months. Sorry, not 1 year, 1 month.
1 month.
That after natural infection we can take now 3 months. Now there is a time to revise this. That currently there is no need to vaccinate these people. They should not be the part of priority list. Our aim should be to reduce the overall impact, to reduce the severity and mortality. Definitely, vaccine is reducing the severity, vaccine is reducing the mortality. So those really who are in the need, better to provide them. First cover them, then we think for the other group or those who had natural infection. But first, our priority should be to cover these high-risk groups. Thank you.
Right. Professor Y.K. Gupta, your take on that, sir? Sir, in terms of vaccinating people who have been infected and are recovering course, is there a need to change that timeline as well, as Dr. Sanjay Rai just mentioned, from 1 month to 3 months, and now possible one more revision for that, so as to have, permutation combinations, right?
We basically go by the data which is produced, and accordingly the policy decision is taken. Because initially the data suggested that what the data was available was that you give after 4 weeks and then you have to do the booster. Later on, it was found that even after 3 months, 12 weeks to 4 months, means 16 weeks, the concentration or amount of titer of antibody is reasonably enough. And therefore, the gap was suggested to be increased for 3 months to 4 months, or say 8 weeks to 3 weeks, or 12 weeks.
12 weeks.
Now, similarly, when a person gets COVID, now whether this antibody is sufficient or for how long this remains sufficient, this is a question of generating data. And this antibody is there. Therefore, this is what Dr. Roy Sanjay has very clearly said, that then this will not be the top priority. The prioritize when you have other people where the vaccine can be more
Right.
given to them. These people post-COVID infection are already having some degree of immunity. We have yet to get the complete data that how long and how much is the immunity after each COVID infection. COVID infection can be mild, moderate, severe, and the immunity.
Professor Gupta, I apologize. There is some network issue. Just before we close the show, Dr. Sanjay Rai, just your take on, there was another experiment that was going on, that has been conducted on mixing the vaccine, as if, first dose of a particular vaccine and second dose of the other vaccine. Would we see such trials more often so as to find efficacy? And what has been the results so far? Because experts, they are slightly divided on mixing the vaccine.
See, that trial was based on compulsion. Actually, what happened in Spain, they provided this vaccine, AstraZeneca vaccine. Then there was a controversy that this vaccine is creating thromboembolism, that is clotting mechanism, and they stopped giving vaccine less than 45 years of age. As then there was no choice. Then they opted for this. That already they have already used this vaccine in age group less than 45 years of the age group. So the choice was only to experiment with another vaccine, and they experimented with this Pfizer vaccine, and they found that it's a safe and effective. So, but we are still waiting for the data without sufficient evidence. Definitely, I do not want to make any comments. So just wait for a few more weeks, I can say, and then they will publish this data also. This entire data is not in the public domain. So without doing a scrutiny, it's improper to say anything about that. Thank you very much.
I get a point. Many thanks, Dr. Sanjay Rai, for elucidating on this extremely important aspect of not just mixing of the vaccine and its merit, but also on the clinical trials on children, and of course, like getting over hesitation so as to have more and more people inoculated. Professor Vaikom Gupta, many thanks for joining us on India Fights Back. So there we have, as you heard the experts, our dear viewers, our experts are unanimous on one thing at least, that is, please keep following COVID-appropriate behavior and get your vaccine shot wherever you are if you're eligible. Well, these are smaller, simple things that can help us in defeating pandemic. That's it in this issue of IFB. Thank you. Goodbye.